Hey everyone, how you doing? Jeff here. Welcome back to the channel, and it's about time I did a little Merry Christmas to me ho 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 book haul video. I haven't done a haul for a while, and some things clicked into place that would allow me to do one now. First, I want to talk about a few miscellaneous items. Then I'm going to get to a couple of orders that I placed through Amazon Yahoo auctions here in Japan. Yahoo auctions, my wife frequents Yahoo auctions and often finds cool things on there. That's how she found some of the few random comic book issues, which I've talked about a few times on this channel. The $6 Million Man vintage comic that she gave me for my birthday that I talked about in a little flip through here, which I'll link below. Also talked about Creepy magazine issue of Creepy, horror comic, black and white magazine, and several other things I found. And I had kind of not expected to find any good books, vintage paperback books here in Japan, English books anyway. There's a lot of Japanese ones, of course. But imagine my surprise when one day last week, my wife said, "Hey, look at this." And she found this seller selling some pretty cool stuff. And not only once I saw that one lot of books, I saw he had several other lots of books. I'm assuming it's a he who had these. And I basically went through a couple of auctions over a couple of days, a couple on Sunday and a couple on this past Monday. And I had a rival who was bidding with me head to head. It got hot and heavy with a couple of those bids, and I lost a couple that I kind of regret, because judging by the state of the first batch of books I got in this auction, they would have been in pristine shape. Those were a couple of lots that had a lot of Edgar Rice Burroughs, Ace, vintage Ace, not the stubbies, the little stumpy ones, but the more regular mass market paperback size Ace books. I had about half of those, or over half of them in each lot already. I really wanted that second lot. It had a Erle of Jory paperback copy in there, as well as some really sweet Burroughs books that I didn't have. But as the bidding got up into the $55 range for one of those lots, I was like, yeah, I can let this one go. And I let that guy get it, but I pushed him up pretty high to get my rival there, because he made a pain in the ass for me for these other bids. But anyway, I did win 4 other bids, and one, I guess 2 other bids, but one of them was, some of the people never even, bid on it. So I just got it at the basic beginning tier price for those. Now, some of you also might have seen a fairly recent video I did with calling all comic book collectors, should I start collecting? And yeah, I got a lot of response on that video. Thank you very much to everyone who left me a comment and gave me their thoughtful advice. And most of the advice boiled down to, yes, you should, but be careful not to go too crazy. It's addictive, and it could be a rabbit hole that you'll drop down if you're not careful. So with that in mind, I have ordered Commandy, Last Boy on Earth Volume 1, that kind of trade paperback collection, which hasn't come yet. I'll get that here probably, hopefully, in another week or so. But I was also given advice by David at Garage Geek about picking up some of the DC Compact Comics line. I also watched a video by Steve Donahue talking about how excellent value those were, and other people as well. And they looked, I couldn't pass up the price. Like I've said in the past, I'm not the biggest DC follower, but, I was willing to check these out. So I did get a couple, and I will get some more for sure. The first one of the ones I got was this All-Star Superman. Now these are roughly 450 or so pages. They're not numbered, but of, pretty awesome art. I've started this one. I've read a couple of the first chapters, or first issues, I guess you would say, of this. It seems very good so far. I'm not a huge, other than the movies, I've watched all the Superman movies, etc., or most of them. I don't think I ever bothered with start Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. But the other ones I have watched, and the Christopher Reeve ones several times, and I'm familiar in general terms with the Superman mythos, but I don't really know all the comic book ins and outs. Frank Quitely is the penciler, Grant Morrison the writer, and digital inker and colorist was Jamie Grant. And again, some very nice art in this one. And the essential story is Lex Luthor arranges Superman to get irradiated by the sun. Basically, he causes an accident on some orbiting spaceship that's going near the sun, and to prevent it from, to save the crew, then Superman flies basically too close to the sun to save the human occupants and gets an overdose of the sun's radiation, which is, of course, the sun is what gives Superman his superpowers. But it makes him even stronger and more incredible mental faculties and other things than before, which was already very impressive. But it's shortening his life. And so he's deciding how he's going to end his life in these 13 issues. That's the 13-issue run, the 12 labors of Superman. And then he even makes a super suit for his lady love Lois. Again, the art's on a smaller scale, but I'm quite impressed with it, and the story seems quite good too. And I'm really looking forward to finishing this one up. I also picked up Batman: A Court of Owls, and I've seen Tim at Secret Fire Books talk about this one before, and it sounded cool. And I'm already, of all the DC characters, Batman is far and away probably my favorite, at least that of the main big ones. And this one also has some pretty cool art. Again, you have to get used to the smaller size, but apparently this DC Compact Comics line is really selling well for them. And apparently the ones they released in the first year that they did this in 2024 outsold all of Marvel's other products combined. So making these affordable and cheap, they're about they're $10 or so in the States. I think I paid 1,700 yen for these, 1,600 yen, which is right around the same price. Pretty reasonable for getting quite a lot of comic art. This one, I just from what Tim was saying in his review, Batman going up against kind of a group of kind of a secret society called the Court of Owls that have been running Gotham for centuries or whatever, or long time anyway. And pretty cool art in this too, and I'm looking forward to that. So those two titles are kind of this, along with the Commandy that's coming soon, are my kind of stepping forward into the comic book collecting world. Again, I'm going to keep it very precise and clinical, and only buy a few titles that are either very reasonable or that I'm very interested in, preferably both, and that are in kind of a finite run or a one story that's wrapped up in one volume sort of situation. That's what I'm looking for there. Okay, what else? I also got a very special book put out by several of our YouTube booktubing friends, and that is Weird Frequencies, Strange Tales by Strange Authors, Strange Stories by Stranger Authors. Okay. And this has been talked up a lot on our little corner of BookTube recently. Edited by Jacob Zwick from Jake at Pulp Mortem. Printed on Amazon here in Japan. And I got mine just a couple days after it was announced back in the States. It's nice and heavy. It's really well bound, it seems like. I'm sure you've seen plenty of this. Anyone who's watching my channel is aware of these other channels that have contributed stories. Pulp Mortem's Jake edited this and spent a lot of time on the editing, and he also has the first story in this, and there's also stories by Joseph from Joseph Reads Books, and Brian from Bad Taste Books, and Chris Liminal Spaces. Ira from SF Words of Wonder has a story in here. Tim T.H. Brandt from Secret Fire Books, of course. And Andrea at Infinite Text. Nick from the book Graveyard has a cool looking story in here. I can't wait to read. And Virgil, good old Virgil from Literally Books. and Eric Wegg, and I've read a few of Eric's sword and sorcery, or I guess you could say urban fantasy stories, and those were great, so I'm looking forward to this one. And the outlaw Levi Wallace has a story, and a little bit of comic book art, a little short comic strip thing here from Richard Rempel at Vintage SF, and finally Wizard Jim at Uncle Jimmy at News from the Gelding caps things off with a pretty cool looking story, which by all accounts is great. So I'm looking forward to that. I haven't read any of these yet. I've looked at a couple of them. I've been trying to finish up another book in the meantime, but I'm going to start digging into this real soon. Mind-bending, exciting, disturbing. 13 stories in the classic pulp tradition that will take you from the edge of the universe to the terrifying void beyond. Very cool and very reasonably priced. Got that one. Okay. Let's talk about the first batch of books that I got off of those Yahoo Japan auctions. All of these, I believe, except for one, are from the same seller. And I'm assuming he is a foreigner maybe an American, living here in Japan. And I have to say, these books are incredibly pristine. I mean, for 50, 60-year-old books, unbelievable. And I'm really glad I pulled the trigger on them. So let me start with the first batch I bid on and I won. Let's start with that first one that I did win. I did beat the other guy to this one, and I probably ended up paying $24 or $25 for this lot of books. I have a lot of A Merritt already, but I could not believe these covers. They had all 6 of these in the great covers. I have at least half of these, if not, 3/4 of them in other editions. But I couldn't pass up these first Avon printing covers, and they are just pristine. I mean, look at it, shiny. How shiny it is. It's like it's never been hardly opened. Look at that. The binding is still tight because it's so pristine. Anyway, this is The Moon Pool, which is the first novel that A. Merritt put out. Now, A. Merritt is a kind of similar, kind of around the same time as Edgar Rice Burroughs. Obviously, this was published in 1918, so a little bit after Burroughs started publishing. But he's a lot more flowery and dreamlike. Someone like Chris at Liminal Spaces would probably enjoy A. Merritt a lot. It's very liminal space sort of material, but it also gets one hand in, or 1.5 feet anyway, into the kind of lost world, weird, monster-filled, fantastic sort of fiction that I like so well. So this one has a very cool cover. I need to find out who does the art because I don't know if it's credited in here. And they're not very good at giving... No, it is. Rodney Matthews. Cover illustration by Rodney Matthews. Now, this one, it says 1919 for the publishing date. And this first Avon printing... This is the third printing, but first Avon printing was 1951. This does not give a date for the third printing, but I would not be surprised if it was from the 60s or mid-60s. But it is absolutely pristine with its nice red text block. And I have 5 more. This is why I fought hard for this one. Then the next one in publication order, published in 1920. And this is The Metal Monster. Now, this doesn't have a credit also for when this particular edition came out. But again, just like new almost. Like hardly anyone has touched this sucker. And this one is about... This is one where it's actually... There's 2 written about the main character of this one, who, what was the doctor's name? I forgot, Dr. Goodwin, maybe? Anyway, finds a lost world where some weird metallic life forms are seemingly proliferating. It's somewhere up in Tibet or in the Far East somewhere. There was that one, I'm assuming has a similar... it's by the same artist. Doesn't give credit for this one, but it looks like in the same style as the previous one. Rodney Matthews, I'm assuming, did all of these, but I'm not sure. Then I have The Ship of Ishtar. Ship of Ishtar, and again, just great, shiny, quality condition. I'm very happy with the quality of all these books I got from this guy. Looks like it was printed and sat in a box somewhere and wasn't touched since, basically. First Avon printing is 1966. This is the 7th printing. Doesn't give a date. The coming of the ship, right? But I'm guessing, late 60s, early 70s. In very good condition. Ship of love, ship of doom. The goddess of love and beauty was adrift on an enchanted ocean in a magic world. The myriad forces of satanic evil plagued the vessel of the red-haired, passionate goddess. Only one man, John Kenton, the American adventurer, could save Ishtar's priestess from the black magic which divided her world from ours. And you'll see these cool floating orbs on the sea. Again, a real fantastical sort of idea. Sometimes, usually there's a lone hero who might even be a reincarnation of an ancient god, and there's weird priestesses or beast cults and strange things. There's lots of A. Merritt stuff is pretty wild, as Chris would say, wild. Then we have maybe one of the more down-to-earth ones, 7 Footprints to Satan. Now, I do have a copy of this, I'm sure, somewhere back home in storage, but again, nowhere near and as good as this condition. Over 5 million copies of A. Merritt's books sold in Avon editions. And this is back then, right, when they were coming out. So he's kind of a forgotten author right now. This was published in 1928. Again, I don't have, this is the 13th Avon printing. I have no idea who the artist was. It's not credited. I'm going to say maybe it's still Rodney Matthews. I don't know, but a pretty cool devil cover there. And a wraparound cover of a sort, I guess. And the American explorer was catapulted into a strange and seductive world of evil ruled by Satan himself. This is a bit more of a noirish crime adventure sort of story. I don't think there's as much supernatural as in some of the other books. The other books are all definitely fantasy, fantastic fiction. Then we have The Face in the Abyss. And that's quite an interesting color with a weird snake woman, Lamaya sort of person. And we got some weird-ass birds on the back here. Again, just fabulous condition, right? It's just in fantastic shape. Only one of these has an ever so slight ding on the side here, right? Face of stony evil, high in the Andes, in the cavern of unearthly jewels, Nicholas Graydon confronts the dark lord of a prehistoric civilization. His colossal stone face beckons from across the chasm. The eyes promise wealth and power, but deliver death. Just as the Lord of Evil is about to claim his victim, the voluptuous snake woman breaks the satanic spell, saving Graydon from the abyss, saving him for the battle to come. Again, there's usually a sexy goddess or priestess somewhere involved and an American explorer. A. Merritt being an American, of course. Here is an earlier Avon edition, The Dwellers of the Mirage. Now, this one has ever so slight little tiny crease on the edge there, but otherwise is in similarly pristine shape. Leif Langdon becomes 2 men in one body, the awesome Hulk of the monster Doinu, to battle for the glory of the Mirage. Look at that badass cover. That's pretty cool, huh? And that weird snake creature, dragon creature continues to wrap around there. Love the art and livery on these Avon books, A. Merritt editions. Let's see. This one, originally the story is published in 1932. No cover art credited. First Avon printing was in 1967. And this is the fourth printed version. Anyway, that alone, for those 6 books, was worth the price that I paid for the auction. However, they were not the only books in that auction. Let's talk about what else I got in here. Again, look at this. This looks like it's never been touched. This is Bledude the Birdman by Vera Chapman, author of The Green Knight. Look at that. Look at that. Can you see the shine? The shine of the new, the shine of the never hardly touched. It's got an interesting cover. I've never heard of this one. Long before mankind conquered the air, Bledude the Birdman lived and loved in England. Prince Bladud was lord of the tribes of Britain, but the sky was his domain. Each night he dreamed a great dream of a splendid bird woman who swooped down and spirited him up above the clouds. To achieve his dream, he built suits of wax and feathers, magnificent gliders of wood and silk. Yet the love of his life, the white blonde Princess Ellen, feared his perilous obsession with all her heart. Educated by druids, granted wings by a beautiful naked sorceress, banished and rescued from a swineherd's mud-cursed realm, he risked his kingdom for the secret of flight, a secret that could dash him to pieces or change the destiny of men. And again, this is another Avon book, and it is incredibly pristine. Now, it looks like this author, Vera Chapman, has also wrote The Green Knight, King Arthur's Daughter, The King's Damozel, and Wife of Bath. Now, I don't know anything about Vera Chapman, but this was published in 1978. First Avon printing, February 1980. So a 45-year-old book that looks like it's 5 days old. Never heard of this author or book, but happy to get another fantasy in there. We got another by Vera Chapman, speaking of, King Arthur's Daughter. And again, pristine condition, right? The dynasty ends. King Arthur's passing heralded the end of the Round Table and the beginning of a divided kingdom. Fair Ursulette, Arthur's daughter, was the lawful heir and Britain's hope, but her power-crazed half-brother Mordred would stop at nothing to gain the throne. Beset by treachery and demonic sorcery, she faced a long, cruel struggle to claim her royal destiny in the shadow of her father's rule. And again, another Avon book. Don't want to bend the spine too much because this just has hardly even been cracked open. Unbelievable. Now I have a Silverberg book, Night Wings, by Robert Silverberg, with the pretty cool cover there. Avon's not doing very good crediting these artists, so I don't expect them to credit this, and no, they do not. But this is apparently published by Galaxy, so maybe this was a Galaxy novel or appeared in Galaxy magazine. 1968, 1969. Night Wings. Aloft on luminescent wings, a wisp of a woman knows Earth's secret. The Hugo Award-winning novel. So it's a Hugo Award-winning novel, Night Wings, by Robert Silverberg. Seems like some kind of fantasy, really, more than anything. But so why it would be winning a Hugo, I don't know. But that looks cool. I also got these two collections, Fantastic Imagination and The Fantastic Imagination 2. So let's look at number 1. It's an interesting cover. Again, we got, these are all Avon books. I think the whole thing is Avon. Yeah, all of these books in this lot were Avon. So we have Adventures in Myth and Mystical Enchantment, The Fantastic Imagination, an anthology of high fantasy, featuring stories by Lord Dunsany or Lord Dunsany, George MacDonald, J.R.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, Peter S. Beagle, Ursula Le Guin. They don't say K, which kind of threw me. Sorry, Ursula Le Guin, Mark Van Doren, don't know who that is, Johann Ludwig Tieck, John Buchan, J.B. Cabell, James Branch Cabell, that would be, Frank R. Stockton, H.E. Bates, Alexander Grin, Lloyd Alexander, and Sylvia Townsend Warner, edited by Robert H. Boyer and Kenneth J. Zahorsky. So, what do we got here? This one is, I just got this book today, so I haven't had a chance to look at this much. Published in 1977. This is the third printing. Also in very good condition, almost like new condition. And Fantastic Imagination 2, Chimerical Adventures in Lands of Wonder. So this has stories. Again, this one is, if anything, even in better shape than the previous one, although they're both in excellent shape. George MacDonald, The Golden Key, Barry Payne, Frank R. Stockton again, Lord Dunsany, The Kith of the Elf Folk, Kenneth Morris, Selma Lagerlof, Evangeline Walton Ensley, Eric Linklater, Seal Moore, Jarrell Meets Magic. Nice, a Jarrell of Jory story. David H. Keller, Ursula K. Le Guin. They got her K in there this time. That's good. Ursula K. Le Guin, April in Paris, Joan Aiken, Lloyd Alexander, Patricia McKillop, Sylvia Townsend Warner, and Vera Chapman. Speaking of, Vera Chapman is in there. I wonder if that's why this guy got that book, because he likes Vera Chapman. I don't know how this person got a hold of these books and why he's getting rid of them. Again, I'm assuming it's a he. And the last one in that order is Science Fiction of the 40s, which is interesting trade paper size. Asimov, Blish, Bradbury, Clark, Heinlein, and many more. An anthology of the best from a prophetic decade with an introduction by Frederick Pohl. And again, this one, now it's got a little kind of warpage in there a little bit, but it seriously looks like it's hardly ever been touched. A little bit more beat up slightly than the others. Cover reprinted from the December 1940 issue of Thrilling Wonder Stories. New design by Stanislaw Fernandez. Okay. Yeah, so what do we got in here? We have Raymond Z. Gallun, Isaac Asimov, Nelson S. Bond, C.M. Kornbluth, Lester Del Rey, Murray Leinster, Lee Brackett, C.L. Moore, Cleve Cartmill, Clifford D. Simic, City. Oh, this is one of the City stories, maybe before he republished them in a fix-up novel. Pie in the Sky, P.I., Pie in the Sky by Frederick Brown, very clever. The Million-Year Picnic by Ray Bradbury. Arthur C. Clarke, Theodore Sturgeon, Chandler Davis, Robert A. Heinlein, James Blish and Damon Knight together. Tiger Ride, that one's called. Henry Kuttner, Judith Merrill, William Tenn, A.E. Van Vogt. Holy cow, that's a murderer's row right there. All from the 1940s. So, that was one lot, okay? However, not done yet. Sorry, guys, I know this is going long, but I'm going to have to show this next one, okay? Try to be pretty fast with this. Actually, there were two more books in that lot that I went, I don't care about, but they're in there. I'll give them to somebody. One of them was Clockers, which I'm sure is a good book. Richard Price's Clockers, crime novel. And Patricia Cornwell's Cruel and Unusual, which I probably read 30 years ago or something. My wife might be interested in that one. I didn't care about those. I just got them because I wanted the other ones. Now, the second lot that I won, and for a little less money, I think I paid, all of $18 or so for these, is 9 DAWS. Now, DAW books. Yes, more DAWS. I got this lot because it had some cool stuff in it. Amazons, edited by Jessica Amanda Salmonson, which I know the Eames boys, Jake at Pulp Mortem, Nick at the Book Graveyard, and Tim at Secret Fire Books are reviewing on their next Eames, Elusive Exclusive Books Society, with a special guest, I believe, is Andrea from Infinite Text. And there was someone else mentioned that's going to be on there. I don't know if they named that person yet, but anyway, that's coming up soon. Probably too soon for me to read all of this, but I'll try to read a story or two so I know a little bit about what they're talking about. Pretty cool cover there. And again, in really nice shape. Nice interior artwork. Okay. Now, DAW is good about crediting artists usually. Cover art and frontispiece by Michael Whalen. So, Michael Whalen cover. Sweet. And then, Tim, again, speaking of Tim at Secret Fire Books, he and Kevin at Kevin Toll Reads have been reading through the Morgaine cycle of books. I believe there are 4 in that series. And when I saw this, lot advertised and it had the first 3 of them, I was like, oh yeah, baby, sign me up. The Gates of Ivrael, The Well of Shuan, and I just dropped that other one. Did you hear that drop? Sorry about that. And The Fires of Azeroth. And again, just in fantastic shape, almost like they've never been touched. Now, let's see. We have this Gates of Ivrael might be a reprint because it's a UE 1615. I don't have, but boy, is that in good shape. Look at that. It looks like it hasn't even been read or touched. But The Well of Shuan is DAW number 284 for those counting about the numbering. And the Fires of Azeroth, it has number 341 on it, but it's got a UJ 1466 up at the top there. I don't know what that's about. Are these all Michael Whelan covers? Yes, indeedy do. They are. Okay. And CJ Cherryh, I have tried to, yeah, this one is too. So all three have, I got the first three books in the cycle, and they sound like cool kind of science fantasy novels from what those guys are talking about. And CJ Cherryh is a writer I've wanted to get back into. I remember taking a look at some of her stuff way back in the day. Some of her Children of Hastur, is that right title? I can't remember right now. But anyway, I've looked at some of her books in the past, but I don't have any until now. That's the main reason why I got these, was for Amazon's and the CJ Cherryh books. But I have another kind of translated by C.G. Cherryh, The Green Gods by N.C. Henneberg, the A. Merritt of France. Speaking of A. Merritt. So The Green Gods, this is something about a kind of post-apocalyptic world where the plants, intelligent plants are taking over. And again, this was written in the French and translated by C.J. Cherryh. So I thought, hey, that's cool. I have a couple of DAW Witch World books. Now, this was number 387, this DAW, The Green Gods. The Spell of the Witch World is, again, it must be a reprint, UY1179. But again, look at this sucker. It is pristine. Just in great, great shape. And Lord of the Witch World. The cool, pretty cool cover. I don't know who does that cover. We got some interior art as usual with DAWS. Michael Whelan doing the cover duties once again. Pretty cool. I don't think he did this one though. Let's see who did this one. Cover art. Yeah, no, he did do this. This is a Michael Whelan, although it doesn't remind me of a Michael Whelan. But now I don't know the order, or I know there's tons of these Witch World books. I really want to get a hold of some of Andre Norton's early space opera stuff. Not done yet. Got a couple more in this lot. It was a lot of 9 books. I was thinking this was another collection of other authors that Lynn Carter edited, but actually there are stories that Lynn Carter wrote or had the audacity to co-write with Clark Ashton Smith and, some other writers. But Lost Worlds come with fantasy's Grand Master, Lynn Carter, I suppose, to Atlantis, Mu, Valusia, and the sunken continents beyond memory. Lynn Carter, Lost Worlds. Now, this is a Lynn Carter book. I've showed some Lynn Carter books in the past in my DAW video I did a while ago, and I grew up loving Lynn Carter, and I have a lot of his books. I've read a ton of his books, and he was probably a much, much better editor than writer, but he's a fun writer and enjoyable enough, and this should be fun. So this is DAW number 398, and again, absolutely pristine condition. And finally, really happy to give this one. Isaac Asimov presents The Great SF Stories, Volume 1 from 1930, the science fiction that he chose as the best anyway, from 1939. Now again, also in great shape, edited by Isaac Asimov and Martin H. Greenberg. I don't believe these have any interior art in them. And the cover design is by Jack Goggin, but it's, very simple. Stories by Robert A. Heinlein, Theodore Sturgeon, A.E. Van Vogt, Jack Williamson, Don A. Stewart, Robert Bloch, Lester Del Rey, C.L. Moore, Henry Kuttner, L. Sprague de Camp. I believe Don A. Stewart is Joseph W. Campbell's pen name. I'm sure Asimov throws one of his own stories in here. He usually does. What do we got? Eando Binder, Robert Bloch, H.L. Gold, Don A. Stewart, Lester Del Rey, John Taine, L. Sprague de Camp, A.E. Van Vogt, C.L. Moore, Isaac Asimov himself, of course, he's going to put one in there. That's Asimov's tradition. Another by L. Sprague de Camp, Henry Kuttner, Milton A. Rothman, Robert A. Heinlein, Theodore Sturgeon, Nelson Bond, Joseph E. Killiam, William F. Temple, Jack Williamson, and another by Robert A. Heinlein. So this one's power-packed, a longer than usual DAW, 432 pages of vintage, golden age science fiction goodness. So that concludes those 2 lots. And I ordered another one individual one. I know I'm almost done, guys. Hang in there. I got this one a little more than I would have normally paid for it, but I just love these little pocket books. Erle Stanley Gardner's. This is a Perry Mason. Perry Mason solves the case of the bigamous spouse with the Robert McGinnis cover. This one is very cool. I probably paid about $8-9 for this one, but it's in good shape as well. Not as good as the others, but considering it's a 60-plus-year-old book. And again, it's got another, as they often did, cast breakdown, cast of characters. It has a little bit of almost like it was a library card that was taken out of there. I just don't know. But overall, it's not any other library thing, so I don't know what caused that little staining there. Piece de resistance, the bigamous spouse. Anyway, very cool. I'm starting to collect some Perry Masons. Previously, I've mostly collected the A.A. Fair books that Gardner wrote under the pen name A.A. Fair, the Bertha Cool and Donald Lamb detective novels. They also have a strong legal angle. That's what his Gardner's forte was. Now, after this mammoth haul, again, it's small by probably Jake's standards or Nick's standards, of course, but very fun for me to have a haul, especially getting these books, finding these in Japan. That's seriously, it's really, I've just don't find this kind of stuff or come across this stuff here at all. I didn't enjoy the Yahoo auctions process, battling it out with this one guy. It was the same guy again. My wife told me it was the same dude. Both of us duking it out to get these lots. I lost a couple, like I mentioned, and I won a couple others that he was bidding against me on. But just a really annoying process. I would put a bid in, and then the last minute, after I put in what I thought would be the winning bid, then they would extend it another 5 minutes or 10 minutes to try to get us to go up higher. Not fun. Some people find that exciting and addictive. I do not. So I would rather them just put a price on this stack and let me buy it straight out. But anyway, I'm glad I won these. Pretty great. Now, this last thing I'm going to show is not books, and it's not part of an auction or anything like that, or an Amazon order. This is a gift, a Christmas present gift from a very generous and longtime good friend of mine named Randall from Medicine Hat in Canada. I'm hoping to have him on the channel one of these days because he's an extremely smart guy as well as a very nice guy. And he is a massive and voracious reader of nonfiction, especially history, World War II history, up through the Kennedy administration and beyond, and Eisenhower and all that. He reads a whole bunch, several books every month about this. He has a massive collection. I'd love to have him on the channel. He doesn't have his own channel. I don't believe he's interested in starting one, but he is very knowledgeable about nonfiction and especially history, historical nonfiction, things of that nature. Anyway, we both share a love of vintage movies and TV shows. I met him on the Home Theater Forum website years ago, and we've become good friends over the years. And he very kindly sent me some Blu-rays and a couple of TV on DVD sets. So I'll just really run through these real quickly. We have the heist film, the famous heist film Top Copy, with we got looks like Peter Ustinov, Melina Mercouri, Maximilian Schell. I think that's Robert Morley down there. It's kind of a comic heist movie. Very well done, very influential heist movie. That one appears to be a Kino Lorber release. Most of these are Kino Lorber, I think. This one's an olive. This is Rope of Sand, a film noir with Burt Lancaster, Peter Lorre, Paul Heinried, and Claude Rains, 3 of the heavyweight character actors from Casablanca. And we have an Alan Ladd film directed by Mitchell Leeson, Captain Carey USA. I like Alan Ladd quite a bit, and he's in film noir mode here. This is a Paramount release. High Noon. Again, there's multiple releases of High Noon. I don't actually have this one on Blu-ray yet, because it's not one of my favorite Westerns. It's extremely influential and important Western, and I've seen it a couple times. This one has a slip cover. And this is a Paramount through Olive Films release. I think it's been since released on several other labels. Couple of well-known 60s comedies. The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming. with a cool poster there. This is a Norman Jewison directed film. Has a lot of character actors in this: Carl Reiner, Eva Marie Saint, Alan Arkin, Brian Keith, Jonathan Winters, Theodore Bickel, and I know it has John Philip Law, who played Diabolique in Danger Diabolique. He plays a very handsome Russian who's thinking of defecting, I think. And it's a comedy about a Russian sub landing on a coast of in Maine or somewhere, and all the havoc that ensues in that kind of Cold War period. Bob Hope, Hedy Lamarr, My Favorite Spy, a Bob Hope comedy. I think Bob Hope's really funny. Unfortunately, he's kind of forgotten these days. Made a lot of fun movies from the late 30s through to the 60s. And this one, directed by Norman Z. MacLeod. This, I believe, is another olive release. And finally, even though Warner Archives recently put out a Blu-ray set of this, a very beautiful looking Blu-ray set by all accounts. I already have the first 5 seasons on DVD. I don't really want to pony up the money for the Blu-ray set. I like the show, but maybe not quite that much. So that show is Cheyenne, and Randall has the Blu-ray set, and he kindly sent me the last 2 seasons. Season 6 of Cheyenne, with I believe 13 episodes, and season 7 of Cheyenne. So now I have the complete series of Cheyenne. I love vintage westerns, western movies and television shows. This is a good one with big Clint Walker, all 6'4" and 260 pounds of muscle that he was. He was a giant, gentle giant. Reminds me of my dad in his prime quite a lot, although my dad was never quite that big. Good, solid Warner Brothers Western. The first season of Cheyenne came out in the mid-50s, 55, I think, and was one of the first adult Westerns on television. Adult meaning not a kiddie Western, but a Western that was designed for adult viewers. But good show, and I'm glad to have these. Thank you so much, Randall, for sending that to me. And that concludes this first phase of my Christmas haul. But I have 2 more orders coming from this same Yahoo Auctions seller, and some pretty cool stuff in those too. I have a couple more individual orders that should be winging their way to me from various sources through Amazon, JP, and some of those will be pretty cool. I'll share those also in the upcoming video. But for now, that'll do it. And I appreciate you watching as always. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope you're enjoying everything you're reading or getting up to this month. And I will talk to you soon in the next video. Take care and see you later.